Hello, this is Claus Jensen presenting a masterpiece from round 10 of Tata Steel Chess 2012. White was Anish Giri, who started the tournament well, but now seems to struggle a bit. And his opponent with the black pieces is Levon Aronian. Aronian has had a super tournament so far. After 10 rounds, he's a whole point clear of the field, having scored 7.5 out of 10. Aronian has a reputation of being a theoretical, positional and perhaps slightly boring player. And I think this game could help him getting rid of that image, because in this game he shows all of his repertoire. Extensive opening knowledge and analysis, solid positional play and great tactical skills. So let's see what happened in the game which was played yesterday. Giri is white, Aronian is black, and the game starts d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop e7, knight f3, knight f6, it's the queen's gambit declined, bishop f4, castles, e3, knight b d7, and bishop e2. And Aronian said here that he was surprised that Giri chose this line, since this line is in fact invented by Aronian. D takes c4, castles, knight b6. And now, an alternative to what Giri played must clearly have been e4, which gains more central control. For example, there's no d5 square for the black knights, and also e4 makes bishop e3 possible should black try to exchange the bishop with knight h5, then bishop e3 is possible. But in the game, Giri chose queen c2, and then came knight h5 from Aronian, bishop e5. And now a move like bishop f6 would be a bad blunder, losing a piece after g4. So Aronian played f6 here, and here the solid and perhaps also less ambitious option for Giri is to play bishop g3, and after an exchange on g3 it's looking quite solid for white. But Giri chose the more ambitious plan, knight g5 here. F takes g5, bishop takes h5, and with bishop d7 we have an interesting and rich position with a lot of possible continuations for both sides. And Giri in this position chose bishop f3, and he probably had at least 10 playable moves here, but he chose bishop f3. And what is impressive is that this very position had been analyzed by the Aronian camp in the past, and they found that this was not so good for white because of the positional exchange sack rook takes f3. And this was indeed what Aronian played in the game. G takes f3, bishop d6. And Aronian believes that the black position is very easy to play, and the game shows him that he's right, although Giri perhaps didn't choose the right plan from here, where he played queen e4, bishop c6, queen g4, queen e7, bishop takes d6, c takes d6, knight e4, and h6. And now Aronian is, of course, very weak on the light squares on the king side, but it's not possible for Giri to exploit it. Queen g3, d5. And here queen d6 doesn't work because of queen takes d6, knight takes d6, and rook g8, and the knight is trapped. So instead, Giri played knight c3, then came rook f8, and knight e2 is planning f4. But Aronian has an answer to this move. He plays rook f5, and now f4 doesn't work because of g takes and knight takes, and then rook g5 would pin the queen to the king. So king g2 followed here instead, knight d7, and now Giri obviously wants to play h4, and he desperately tries to get something going, but Aronian has the game in control. He played knight f4, f8 on the previous move, and now comes knight g6. And now if h5, then knight h4 checks still, giving back the exchange doesn't help white here. Rook takes, g takes, queen h3, queen b4, rook b1 and queen d2, and white cannot defend everything in his own camp here. Instead, Giri played f4, but then Aronian simply took the pawn on h4, and here came king f1, and again this queen b4 move. Rook b1, bishop e8, and now Giri has to close down the black queen from entering the white position, so knight c3 here. Queen e7, and from now on it's not very easy for Giri to find useful moves. He plays b4 in this position, rook f8, rook b2, bishop g6, which is looking a very nice position for the light squared bishop here. King e1, bishop d3. Now came f takes g5, knight f3 check, king g1, h takes g5, queen h3, queen f6, king c1, and bishop g6. And so far, Aronian has played solid positional chess and has outplayed his opponent. The advantage is so big that Aronian felt that it was soon time to go for a quick conclusion of the game. Giri played a4 here, and now Aronian plays rook d8, which is defending the d5 pawn because he wants to open the position with the e5. Knight e2 from Giri, and now comes this e5 move, which is an instructive move because when you have the better and more coordinated pieces, you should aim to open up the position further. And this is exactly what Aronian does with this move e5. If d takes e5, then knight takes e5, and now knight d3 check is a threat, but after rook d1, still black is having a very good position. In the game, Giri chose queen g4 instead. Then came e takes d5, e takes d4, and rook e8. And after queen d7 from Giri, Aronian has a big advantage, and there are many paths to victory. But the move Aronian played here surely speeded up the winning process. And I guess it could be an exercise for you to try to find Aronian's next move. You can pause the video if you'd like to, and try to find the next move from Aronian. The move that Aronian played in this position was c3. And if rook c2 here, giving back the exchange, then rook g8, queen h3, taking the exchange back, rook e8, knight takes c3, and knight takes d4. With check is decisive for black. He's 2 pawns up, has better pieces, more centralized pieces, and more active pieces, and the white king is in trouble. So this would be winning. And in the game, after c3, Giri therefore played rook a2. And now comes the most beautiful move of the game. And once again, you might want to pause the video and see if you can spot the next move from Aronian. The move that Aronian played here was knight e1. A beautiful move. And after rook takes e1, then queen f4, check was the point of the move, because now the knight cannot take the queen because of rook takes e1, checkmate. And now you can see how the bishop and the pawn and the rook are well coordinated, and the white king is mated. If instead, after knight e1, Giri had played rook h3 here, then queen takes f2, knight takes c3, queen f4 check, king g1, and knight d3, and white must give material to avoid to getting mated in a few moves. So Giri played rook takes e1, and after queen f4 check, he then played king d1. And then came queen e4. And the main threat is queen d3 check, followed by queen b1 checkmate. And there is no defense to this threat. White could try knight c1, then queen takes e1 is checkmate. And if he tries rook g1, then queen d3 check, and then king e1, then queen b1 is checkmate, because the knight is pinned, cannot defend on c1. And if instead after queen d3 check, then king c1, then queen b1 is checkmate. And also rook a1 doesn't work because of queen c2 checkmate. So white is lost in all variations, and he has to give material and to avoid a quick checkmate. So this was a beautiful ending to a great game by Aronian. And I hope you enjoyed this masterpiece just as much as I did. And I hope to see you on my chess website at clausjensen.com. Bye bye for now.